Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the Struggle Bus podcast. This week on the bus, we've got Doug Peterson. With this terrible play calling, what does his future in Philly look like? For the Sixers, we got Ben Simmons. Where is this man's three? Also, he is joined by the rest of the team and an almost record-breaking number of turnovers in their latest preseason game. For the Flyers, we don't have anyone. It helps that they're not doing much, but it gives hope for this city. And finally, for the Phillies, we have Dave Dombrowski, the new president of baseball operations. He hasn't done anything yet, but with his past, I'm sure he will be giving material to this podcast very soon. And speaking of material for this podcast, I'm sure the Eagles this week gave Dave plenty to complain about.
Yeah, I'd say so. While it was a close game in the end, and I'd say overall it was a good showing for the team.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff to be broken down that went wrong. And the first thing I'd like to touch with is Doug Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'm sick of him. I'm sick of it. The last few years, it's just been a steady decline. And this year, it's just spiked even worse. It's obvious that his play callings have just they've reached rock bottom. If we want to look at this game specifically, these read options. Now, when you have a quarterback that can run the football, a very popular play to run with them, and we see Lamar Jackson do it a whole lot, are read options. And they are very useful. But when they're being pulled as often as Doug likes to call them, they stop being as useful.
Yeah.
You absolutely need to get Jalen Hurts out of the pocket and running around. He probably needs to average, 60, 70 yards a game rushing. But I don't think the way to go about that is just with constant read options. Do you have a problem with that?
I do and I don't. Well, first of all, let me preface this with I don't know football as well as you do. So it's probably rightly so that I don't have a problem with that. Okay, I have a problem, but I don't have as much of a problem that you do. The thing for me is that it still kind of worked. Like, in the last three quarters, we were still able to put up a fight, and with as close as we came, if we had a first quarter played like the rest of them, then there's a better chance that we would have won the game. So on one hand, his play calling is rough. I'm not gonna lie, but it's getting the job done. So it's kind of the same thing as last week, where it was like, okay, well, obviously the Eagles didn't do as good as they could have, and there were mistakes that were made, but it got the job done. And it's weird because this is still the same guy, and I know I said this last week. It's the same guy that was calling the plays for Carson. So I don't know if, the chemistry between him and Hurts is better. I don't know if it's the execution. Something's going on there. But, I don't want to put all of it on Doug Peterson because at the end of the day, he had called plays that had worked. Now, this read option thing, it's a problem, But this is not – it's not something that I would put as a number one priority or not number one priority, but the number one reason that, we lost this week's game. I think if you get the right people in there to execute his plays, it can work.
I agree. Not all of his play calling was bad. Not all of it was bad. But the read options, I had a problem with, and just to kind of wrap that bit up, again, like I said, they can be very useful. But when they're used so much as he uses them, the defense is just going to start sitting on it.
Mm-hmm.
If we can spread it out a bit more, I think it'll become a bit more useful. Not to mention, also with the read options, like Jalen Hurts, every once in a while he struggles with it in terms of knowing when to pull that ball back out and take it himself. That was a problem in the first quarter, but I felt like as the game went on, he started reading those a bit better. But other than the read options, there was one play in the third quarter. It was 3rd and 6. Called up a tight end screen to Dallas Goedert, I believe, on the left side of the field. Now, he loves his screens, his wide receiver screens, tight end screens. He loves doing them. We watch that game. He does them probably too often too. But he made it blatantly obvious that it was going that way. With the motion that happened and just how everyone was set up, the defense and probably everybody or most people watching at home knew it was coming. And sure enough, once the ball was hiked, the ball barely got to Goddard before he was being tackled. That's not how a screenplay is supposed to work here.
Yeah.
The blocker should be able to pick it up, but the defense knew it was coming. There's not enough blockers to pick it up. It's just another thing that goes to show that his playing calling is just not up to speed anymore.
Yeah, and I see that, and it's definitely a problem. And is it something that can be fixed with a better coach? Yeah, the thing I struggle with is that, like I said, it looks like there could be people who could execute his plays better. Now, obviously, like the setting up for the screen, that's his fault. Running the same play over and over and over again is going to get you to lose regardless of what that play is. So that's a big problem as well. My thing is I'm just not so fast to jump on it because, well, first of all, he got us to a Super Bowl, which we haven't done in a while. So I'm kind of holding on to that. But along with that, like, we know he is – it's like the same thing as once. We know he has the capacity to be really good. And to throw that away when it's not total garbage for me is just kind of hard. But I definitely see your point. And, if this trend continues of, like, us just barely losing games because, everybody else is playing as hard as they can and doing – with his plays what they can, and not the last, but an important piece of the puzzle is Doug's lack of a decent play calling, then it's time to change. But I don't know. I don't know that I would call it the biggest problem right now. Not that you are, but yeah.
It's not the biggest problem per se. I mean, some games this season, you can definitely see that, like that Bengals game, choosing not to kick a field goal at the end and trusting Jake Elliott and going away from that and instead just being happy with a tie, which also I'd like to say I think that was the beginning of Jake Elliott's downfall this season. I think that could be the spot that started because Doug didn't show confidence in him to win the football game. I think that could have started Jake Elliott's downfall.
I don't know about that. I mean, I remember watching last season where he would go out for like 40-yard field goals, 50-yard field goals, and I'd be like, okay, he's got it, and he'd like smash them. But I remember specifically a few times that he would go up for a field goal, and I'd be like, I don't know if he's going to make this. I do remember him shanking, or not a field goal, an extra point. I do remember him shanking the field. So is this a start? No. That probably doesn't help, and I'm with you there. But like, ever since that 60-yard field goal, that record-breaking field goal that he had a few years back, I'm not inclined to believe that his decline has just started with that. But like I said, certainly doesn't help.
I mean, I'd also like to say with Doug, like sometimes when I'm watching the Eagles, and especially this season, I feel like it can be compared to me playing Madden. I feel like he's selecting these plays off of the slim and quick playbook that they give you. I feel like he's, when I play Madden, I'm not too advanced into that and picking plays and dialing it up. I just don't have enough time to do that.
Yeah.
But like, I find myself running like the same 8 to 10 plays over and over again.
Now,
Sometimes I feel like Doug does that too.
Well, I mean, if he's running this many read options, then to some extent he has to be. Like, that has to be like his fallback, or like if he doesn't know what to do, then it's got to be something he does. But is it potentially a lack of trust in Hurts Like, because I mean, obviously he hasn't had the time that he's had with Carson, And this is we did draft him first, but the he hasn't had the time to make that connection. He's our second string,
I mean,
is that a factor?
I mean that I think it is a factor, and I think we also see that sort of a thing when Nick Foles was here and when he was the quarterback. Mm-hmm. Because what Doug did at that point, he did take the plays that he had ready, and he slimmed it down a lot and made it a much simpler amount of plays so that it would work for Nick, especially.
Yeah.
And now he's doing that to some extent with Jalen too. Mm-hmm. Now, I wish that he would have done that with Carson. I just feel like if he treated the same way, like coached the same way that he did with Nick Foles or now Jalen Hurts, we might have seen somewhat of a different Carson. Now, would Carson still have had the same terrible season that he did? Probably.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could have been slightly better if he would have dealt with him a bit differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda, like, obviously, I would hope that he takes a different approach to coaching to see if he can reach him. But, he didn't, and he probably won't, if we're being honest. If he's sticking to his ways, he probably won't. But it baffles me a little bit because, like, with Wentz's hesitation to throw away the ball, right, and his hesitation in the pocket once the plan goes wrong, I feel like Peterson had to stick to a more strict play calling style. Like he had his plays that Carson could do, and then maybe like each play has its set backup, and that way, like he's got a short list of plays that he can run. And then if those go awry, Carson can then know what to do because we saw him struggle in the pocket, but with Jalen, I feel like Jalen's more resourceful. Like once he's better at handling once the plan breaks down. And he's like, okay, well, I can see it. I can run now. Or I can see it, and I know that I can buy myself time to either get to one of the sidelines, or I can, wait long enough to where I know that like Greg Ward or Dallas Goedert's going to get open. So it like, do we need to see a more diversity in plays with Jalen?
I mean, I think a lot of the diversity in those plays is his ability to run. Because, like you were mentioning, if the play does break down, now Carson Wentz had the ability to run, but not like this. Jalen Hurts is special, and his running game is very good and can be compared to such like Lamar Jackson or Michael Vick. He's able to create almost that second play within a play just with his legs.
Yeah.
So they can have that play called, and then if it breaks down, he can run. It adds another layer to the defense strategy. They're probably going to have to sit with a quarterback spy with one of their linebackers every play.
Yeah.
That could take away from the coverage. It could maybe take away from a blitz. It's just something that they're going to have to look out going forward.
Yeah. All right. Well, with all of that, is there anything else in the offense that you saw that you liked that didn't have to do with, or probably didn't like? But
yeah, there's still more.
That didn't have to deal with Doug or Jalen.
Well, with Jalen, before we get off of him, I do want to touch on that first quarter.
Okay.
Because that first quarter was rough.
Yeah.
It was very rough for him. I mean, you can start the discussion with the safety that he took. Yeah. I mean, me personally, did I know that rule? No. But that's because I've never seen it before. I don't play football. I don't coach football. Nobody pays me to do it, so I don't need to know the rule. But he does have to know that rule.
Yeah.
Where if he's in the end zone and he throws it like that, it's going to cause a safety.
Yeah.
And while we have praised him of being good once the play breaks down, that was a very big exception where he just unfortunately, he made a mistake there. Also, when he's running the football in some of these read options or just handling the football, while it does make the offense more dynamic, he's fumbling it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which doesn't exactly stray from what we've seen with Carson in the past, but it's just I wish we could move past it because I'm so sick of our quarterbacks fumbling the football twice every game. I wish we could move past that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a feeling though, because of his lack of training as the number one, I feel like there were just some things you couldn't handle or you couldn't get to. Like, I don't know. Like if you're a quarterback that can run, it would be assumed that you can hold the football. You know, I think his problem is knowing when to, because like once he gets started running past the line of scrimmage, I think he's fine. But I feel like his fumbles have come from him not securing the ball in the back. Because when he knows to secure the ball, then he's good. But it's that area of recognition of like, okay, well now this play's going to crap and I have to go down. And I think later in the game, I did see him more ready to go down. More like he was he understood that he made his mistakes in the earlier game and he's trying to learn. But I'm hoping that should he get the chance to be our starter next season, then that's something to work on, and then this won't even be a thing. Like he's played now 2.25 worth of games, 2.5 games worth of football. Hopefully these little things that we're seeing now just kind of go away should we decide to train him like that. But as far as like it makes me hopeful because he's a rookie. And these are problems that can be fixed. These are not like problems that are too embedded within him to fix. Like Carson's inability to recognize when a play's broken down and throw things away. But yeah, it was a shame to see that his exception just happened to screw us that quarter. I think if we got 4 full quarters out of our offense and Jalen, that we would have had a significantly better shot at winning the game because. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we saw 3 touchdowns. No, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns total in the second quarter from him. I think that was. I think if he was able to play that way and he had started that way, we would be much better off. But as far as like I said, as far as problems go, I think it's a little. I think. With the correct amount of training, these things are fixable. And while for this season, they are certainly not the best, in terms of next season, in my mind, it gives me hope.
Absolutely. With him being a rookie, these things are easily fixable. Like you said, he's only 2.5 games into his young career. And during the offseason, you'll have plenty of time to work with it. As long as the coaching staff emphasizes on certain problems for him to try and focus on and correct, we should be fine. But like you're mentioning, we're very optimistic with him. Like this thing or this game, he threw for 338 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
and then he also ran the ball for 63 yards and a touchdown. Other than that first quarter, he had a very, very good game.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and it was, like I said, if we could have continued that from the first quarter onward, I think honestly, we definitely would have won the game, but we definitely would have had a better chance to win that game. But one thing that I did come out of that came out of this game that I was really optimistic about, not only just Jalen, but the connection between him and Greg Ward. That got me. That was. Every time he caught a touchdown, I was like jumping up and down because that was so nice to see that connection. Like when Carson and Zach Ertz had that connection, in prior years, that was great to watch, and it was almost like that's another route of a backup plan once the plan goes to crap that they can idolize. I remember I know at least one of the touchdowns that Ward caught. He was It was very late. The play had been going on for a while, and Hurts was scrambling, and it was nice to see. And with with our receiver situation, which I know we mentioned last week, is certainly not the best. I remember watching the game. And I took a picture of the statistic. DeAndre Hopkins has 1,155 receiving yards entering Week 15, and Ward, Fulgham, and Rager have a combined of 1,140. So I don't think the words don't have a decent wide receiver core do it justice as to how dire our wide receiver situation is. But that connection between Ward and Jalen, if that can carry through in the next season, and the cards are dealt right and everything, and Jalen's the starting quarterback, I think that's definitely something that we should watch out for.
I think it could be something special. Greg Ward, and I think I touched on this last week. Greg Ward was one of the people that stood up for Jalen Hurts in this quarterback controversy.
Yes.
One of the first people to come out with him. Mm-hmm. And I believe they do know each other prior to getting to this team as well.
Yeah.
So they do have a really close connection, and that can be seen with the targets that he's getting, the catches, the touchdowns. Mm-hmm. And it is nice to see. I also saw Jalen Hurts targeting Alshon Jeffrey quite a bit.
Yes.
And honestly, it's good to see, because as much controversy as Alshon gets for like his contract size and always being hurt, mm-hmm. like now to see him back, some of the catches he makes, it really is like number one wide receiver material, some of the mm-hmm. stuff that he does.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of what he was doing in 2017, some of the catches he made through that playoff run.
Yeah.
And I just hope that, Jalen Hurts can keep building his chemistry up with some of these receivers, especially some of the younger ones. Mm-hmm. And I hope we have very good connections moving forward.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Anything else besides Hurts and Jalen that you want to touch on for the offense?
Yeah, I'd like to look at Miles Sanders. Now, this game, it wasn't as good. I mean, he had 17 attempts, which is what we're looking for. That's why I stressed last week. Yeah. Miles Sanders needs to be given the ball. Mm-hmm. He's a top 5 running back in this league. He needs to be given the football.
Yeah.
Now, he only went for 64 yards, and I don't believe he had any touchdowns this week. But it still makes a difference, feeding him the football. It opens more things up. And I do hope that Doug stays with that plan. Yeah,
it was nice to see. I definitely think if Sanders can prove, I mean, he doesn't need to prove, but for some reason, he needs to prove to Doug Peterson that he's capable of this. It might take the read option pressure off of Jalen Hurts, and might not. It might lighten the load of how much he runs, which is it would be nice to have 2 threats by run. And I think the 17 attempts is good, regardless of what he did with it. The fact that they're giving him the ball is great progress. But yeah, we didn't get to see much of him. And even last game, the only reason, not the only reason, but one of the only reasons he went for 100+ yards is because he had that breakout, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So, it was he didn't do much. I don't want to say he didn't do much, but he didn't do as much with it as he did last week. But he got the carries, which is big.
Yeah, and I mean, with that being said, and you touched on what he did last week, with both Sanders and Hurts over 100 yards last week, it made that difference. If we can run the football effectively, it will open up the passing game. And we just need to keep an emphasis on it, whether or not it works out as good as we want it to.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Is that all you got for the offense?
That's about it. Yep.
All right, let's go to the defense. I think my favorite part about this game and the defense was watching the defensive line. I mean, I think it always is. That's a pretty standard answer. But I mean, they just, fumbles, sacks, just putting pressure on Kyler Murray in the first place. It was gorgeous to watch. It was just really entertaining.
Absolutely. This defensive line is always fun to watch, and they are the strong suit of the defense, especially with our top 6 corners out. So the more pressure they can get, the more it relieves the pass coverage and it helps them out a bit. Like,
Yeah.
With this defense, I mean, there was a lot of good this week.
Yeah.
We saw, I believe it was 2 forced fumbles, which is great, and
Mhm.
an interception. Doing these turnovers, if we can give our offense short fields, it goes such a long way, because this whole season we haven't been doing that as a defense.
Yeah,
Defense
exactly.
has stood up. They've put up good games, but if we can give our offense a short field, it completely changes everything.
Yeah. And I would like to say, um, I think there's a correspondence. I don't know what it is, but we got what leading up to the New Orleans game. We had 3 interceptions all season, and all of a sudden Jalen Hurts comes in, and we get 2 in 2 games. Like I think that has to, whether it be like he acts as a spark plug for him, or maybe it makes the other offenses like nervous to give it back to us. I don't know what it is, but it was nice to see. And like you said, like you mentioned, the fumbles were great, but on the secondaries and the corners, um, yeah, it was okay. There is a few things going against them. First of all, they're all rookies, quite obviously. But the second is DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald. You know, they have the best wide receiver in the league, and Larry Fitzgerald is still a great wide receiver. They made some phenomenal catches, and to some extent, there's just nothing you're going to be able to do with that. Like, you know, they're rookies, they're new or newer, but they did a relatively good job. Like that one catch that Larry Fitzgerald made in the end zone in the back left corner of the end zone. I mean, that was crazy. But it's something we gotta not work on because we just need our secondaries back. That's it. So it's something. It's a weak spot for us, but at the same time, with the hand that we were dealt, I feel like they did a decent job.
I do feel like they did a decent job, and I'd also like to bring up that before this game, I recall texting you and telling you, that get ready because DeAndre Hopkins is about to go for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Honestly, I am impressed by what our corners did. I think especially Jaquette. I think he had a really good game.
Mm-hmm.
He did force one of the fumbles, and his coverage overall, I think it was pretty good.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I think Marcus Epps did an okay job.
Yeah.
He came up with the interception.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
That's always good. But like you said, they're going to. We knew they were going to allow yards. We
Yeah.
knew that they weren't going to hold up. And I mean, who's saying our starters would have held up against DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald?
Yeah, probably not.
But yeah, for the card we were dealt this game, I think they did a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, and we just need our secondaries back. It's almost that simple. But I remember last week you saying like I've noticed that the way we practice covering wide receivers, the way our secondaries practice, they don't look at the ball. I saw that. Especially with that Larry Fitzgerald touchdown in the back corner, the back left corner of the end zone. Like he was in front of him, like he had his arms out, and it went right below one of his arms. And Larry and he saw it and he caught it, So it like they did with their training what they were supposed to do. So now it's a question of are they doing the most with their training? Is it the training that needs to get better, or is the training right and what they need to be doing is better?
I mean, I definitely think in some situations, Jim Schwartz does need to start teaching these corners and safeties to turn around and try and find the ball. Now, in the end zone, it is kind of difficult to do because, if you lose track, because we're probably going to play man in the end zone,
Mm-hmm.
but when you're so backed up like that, you don't have a chance of getting safety help.
Yeah.
If you're playing man, you're a corner on a wide receiver, you're probably not going to get safety help.
Yeah.
Whereas on a long field, you would have that option. You would have maybe a safety on your side of the field that could help out.
Yeah.
So in the end zone, if you're trying to look for the ball, like if you turn around real quick and look for the ball, you might lose your receiver in that split second. and you lose your receiver, it's a touchdown.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's an open field, I feel it's more acceptable, and I want them to see them start looking for the ball more often, because they will have that extra layer of defense behind them just in case they do lose track of their man. And that would kind of solve a big portion of the turnover issue. We would be getting quite a few more interceptions if that's how they were coached.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be certainly nice to see. But Jim Schwartz has been here a while, which is another thing. And it kind of, like, on one hand, obviously I'm going to question the training. But on the other hand, he's been here a little bit. And we've had previous seasons with him that have gone pretty well defensively. So, like, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. Your point's all completely valid. But it just happened. It's like, where did it go wrong?
I mean, I do feel like Jim Schwartz has a good scheme out there, and he's been here for so long because he is good. He's good at what he does.
Exactly.
While it is frustrating to watch sometimes, his defensive strategies, overall it works. We might not come up with these turnovers, but it's still a good defense. Yeah. But one thing that I wish that he, and it's not only him, but Doug Peterson as well, would change about how they coach his team. The team still feels undisciplined.
Yeah.
They still feel reckless. We had Derek Barnett with a late hit on DeAndre Hopkins. And then we also had Seymour with a late hit. Both of those cost us 15 yards apiece.
Yeah.
We can't afford to be giving up 15 yards to one of the better offenses there is out there.
Yeah.
We just can't afford to do that. And not only just these late hits, but, we still have our fair share of penalties as well.
Yeah.
Pass interference. And again, with our corner, I was very surprised. Not much, if any, pass interference this week.
Yeah.
But, we have problems, especially on the offensive side of the football, where offsides or we're not set. There was one instance where we were in hurry-up offense, and Jalen Hurts he called for the ball to be snapped, but everybody wasn't set for over a second. So, that loses us a yard. Now, that's probably more on Jalen Hurts. He's got to make sure that everybody's set before that. But I do think that this team needs to have more of an emphasis on playing cleaner football.
Yeah, definitely. I remember one instance where not everybody was ready, and luckily there was a false start. But Jason Kelsey snapped the ball, and it hit Jalen Reagor's foot as he was running by, which would have been a fumble. And that thing went pretty far, and Arizona might have gotten that. So we got lucky. But 100%. I mean, it's from a and it's hard for me to understand because I'm a tennis player. Sportsmanship is a very big thing. In my mind, that hit on DeAndre Hopkins as he's running out, it was unnecessary, and you could see that he was going out. Like, you could see that he was stumbling, running towards the line. He even might have had a foot half out of bounds. Do you need to shove him? No. Like, even if, like, you might just wait there on the line to see if he does anything, And so I always cringe when I see late hits. I always see it as a lack of sportsmanship, although it might not be, but that's just me. There's no reason to go extra if you already see a play trending in that way. However, especially from, like, there's, like, the tennis side of me, and then there's, like, the hockey side of me, which is, like, you always go for the puck until the whistle's blown dead. So, like, at the same time, I also understand, like, you got to make sure the play's down or the play's dead, or else that guy might get up and do something. So it's a hard thing for me to watch. But, yeah, I mean, we definitely have to get more disciplined, especially on the not especially, but I do remember the special team side. That was a bit rough as well. The blocked punt or the shanked punt, whatever you want to call it, that was rough. Yeah, I mean, definitely there needs to be some improvement on that side of the ball.
I mean, well, first I'd like to say, now I'm not going to go about calling him a dirty player because I like him. and I like his play style.
Mm-hmm.
But Derek Barnett has historically been called for quite a few of these dirty hits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hope that's not a trend. I hope it doesn't continue. Again, because I like him and I like how he plays. It's just something that needs to change. But with special teams, yeah, the blocked punt, not great at all. But the big issue on special teams would be the fake punt that the Cardinals rolled against us.
That was atrocious. Yeah.
Now we were texting through that bit too,
Oh my
and
God.
both of us called before that play that was a fake punt. It felt like you just got the feeling of it, like it was blatantly obvious that a fake punt was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and while I was getting flashbacks to the playoff game we had against the Saints back in 2018. I believe we were up 14-0 in that game, and it was the Saints were punting on their side of the field, and they fake punted, and they got us with it. And not that one felt blatantly obvious, but it's just something that we need to be more on the lookout for it. And honestly, we need a better feel for it. Mm-hmm. Like when these teams, and everything's on the line this game for both of these teams.
Yeah.
Eagles and Cardinals, everything is on the line. We're fighting for our playoffs hopes. So they are going to pull out all the stops. You know, maybe mid-season they're not going to do it, but we're getting into crunch time here. They're going to pull out what they need to do and play it risky to ultimately win. So I just feel like we need to try and be more aware of that.
Yeah. I mean, so here's the funny part. Like, if you call a fake punt, like, if you see that and you're like, all right, you know, they're going to fake punt it. That, like, you know a lot about football. You know a lot about the plays. You know, you have an eye for this kind of stuff. I don't. And I'm not very good with plays and lineups and screens and all this kind of stuff. But when you see that, so the Cardinals they're tied at this point, or they're just slightly up, and the Eagles are coming at them, and it's 4th and 2, you know, like, and you're playing an aggressive football game, you can't not be aggressive back, you know, like if you're 4th and 2, you've got to go for that, and it blows my mind how nobody could recognize that. Like before, like when I saw them running out onto the field, and I was like really surprised that they were punting, because I mean Kyler Murray is a great quarterback, you know, and you've got Fitzgerald. You've got Kenyon Drake. You've got Hopkins. You know, you've got options to make a 2-yard play, you know, and get the ball, you know, and move these chains. But I don't know. For me, it seemed so out of the blue. It seemed so blatantly obvious, regardless of how they lined up or regardless of what was, like, just situationally. It seemed to me that, like, okay, a fake punt's coming here, you know, because at that point they were somewhere around midfield. And I mean, they've had the Cardinals had a lot of, with the exception of the fumbles, they've had a lot of offensive momentum, you know, and with the penalties that we're giving them due to our, you know, undisciplined nature, you know, they can build off that. So the fact that they would have done this drive out to midfield and then stop just because of 2 yards, I didn't believe that. So, you know, like I said, from its technical standpoint, you know, there might have been a chance to catch it, but even just to someone like a commoner to football like me, it just didn't fit the trend that the game was going in.
Now, fakes are always tough to call. Like, maybe we both got lucky and just the thought popped into our head and we both saw this coming.
Yeah.
But now I'm not calling for them to, like, sit back in, like, a normal defense expecting a fake punt every single time. Yeah. Obviously, you have to be smart about it, be situational about it. What I think we need to be doing in these situations where, you know, even an inkling in your head, you go, they might try it here. Mm-hmm. We need to forget about sending the rush and trying to get a blocked punt. Yeah. You know, of course, we still send some people. That's a call you can make. You either will sit back and try and block to try and get a longer return, or you'll send more to try and get the blocked punt. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't specifically recall which one we were doing there, but you have more of a chance of stopping these fakes if you are sitting back and trying to block. You leave more people back because, you know, typically they have a runner on each side of the field. Mm-hmm. And if we're looking for the blocks, we'll typically put 2 on each of them. Yeah. And that'll take care of them. Do we really need 2 on each of them? Probably not. we could float two of them towards the middle maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and look for these things. And just being situational. If we floated two of our blockers inside to just kind of keep an eye on everybody that's lined up on their line to
Mm-hmm.
see if any of them are going to come out for a pass or whatnot.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be better. Again, being situational.
Yeah. Yeah. Things to improve. Although we don't have much time to do it.
No.
We've got 2 games left. We've got Dallas and we've got the Washington football team. How does this game and the rest of the other games played within the division? How does that, what does it look like? What are our chances of the stars aligning and us getting into the playoffs?
Well, we're still in it. That's about as good as it gets in terms of the news here. But it's very unlikely at this point that we get in. Last week, I was optimistic about this. I said that Washington probably will lose to Seattle, which they did.
Yeah.
And we needed to probably win out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they lost to Seattle. We lost to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Dallas next week, which we should be able to handle, and Washington week 17, which, if it still matters, we should be able to handle. Washington next week has Carolina, which really upsets me because I just don't see Carolina pulling an upset there.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't see it. It would call for – it's possible. It's possible. But, at this point, I think we're probably out of it at this point. Like, very low percentage chance that we still make it in, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah. It was disappointing to see. I don't want to say much hope, but it was more like 50-50 for me this week. Obviously last week it was a great win, and like I said, even though there were imperfections to that game, we kind of pulled it together and got the win. I think those imperfections came out a little more in this game, and I think when we lost, it was heartbreaking because that was it. We were done. So yeah, it's disappointing, but in retrospect, I didn't really expect us to get here. Now, to be fair, the NFC East has been a dumpster fire. It has been, there's still a small chance for all teams in the division to get in, but it's a shame.
And my closing thoughts on this are, this week, while there were those imperfections, I ultimately think that I was impressed this week. And I think I might have told you this too. Like, Jalen Hurts, terrible first quarter. But there was one touchdown that he ended up, the touchdown that he ran in. At that point in time, he kind of won me over.
Yeah.
And, he can run the ball very well. He can throw the ball pretty well too. I feel like he's more accurate, not only on the checkdowns, but he's more accurate on some of these deep balls too. He's just missing them, but they're close.
Yeah.
And going forward, even if we don't make the playoffs this year, I am very optimistic about next year because whether, we're going to have open competition in the off season and training camp before next season for quarterback.
Yeah.
And to me, honestly, I don't think we can go wrong with either one. I don't think we can go wrong with Hurts. I don't think we can go wrong with Wentz. I think we're sitting in a really good position right now. And it answered the question that we don't need to draft a quarterback in this upcoming draft. We don't need to do that. Now, that was a rumor going around. Not again. Do we need to. And by no means did this turn out to be a good pick. But by no means do I give any credit to Howie Roseman for this pick. No credit at all. Because if you look at it at the time, Carson Wentz is the franchise quarterback. There's no reason, and he didn't think there'd be any reason for him to have a bad season as he did. So drafting a quarterback, he drafted the right quarterback. If he was
Mm-hmm.
going to draft any quarterback at that moment in time, he drafted the right one and a very good one. The fact that he drafted a quarterback in the second round, it's still unexcusable. It still makes no sense, and he gives no credit to it.
Two things. First of all, no credit. I mean, I can't help but like give him at least a little bit. Like he had to have.
None.
No. Okay. All right. Well, I just got sat down there. Second, just because. Okay. Well, the second, on this Jalen Hurts draft pick, if you're saying it was completely illogical, and here we have rumors that he's gonna draft a quarterback this draft, and it would be completely illogical to. Who's to say that he won't? You know, if this guy's been screwing up draft picks for us for a while, Metcalf, he missed Metcalf, he missed Hopkins, he missed Lamb. Well, he didn't miss Hopkins, but he missed Lamb, he missed Jefferson. What? Who's to say he's not going to screw it up again?
Yeah, no, I believe that he will screw it up again. So, so to me, the only way this problem is fixed is if he gets the boot and it's gone at the end of this season. Like, it's just he just hasn't made enough good moves to make up for his bad moves, and his drafting, I can't blame him for DK Metcalf. Every team passed on DK Metcalf, and if I'm not mistaken, every team or most teams passed twice on him.
Yeah,
So I can't blame him specifically for that. But we do have so many other things we can blame him for. And, I mean, there's so many outstanding problems on this team that we've had for the last few seasons. And they haven't been addressed because he drafts poorly. We need somebody else as our general manager moving forward. Hopefully somebody with a scouting side to them, somebody that can recognize talent when they see it.
when it hits you in the face.
Yeah, when it... so hopefully we can get that together and not draft another quarterback in this upcoming draft.
Yeah. Well, hopefully is always the word for that. But yeah. All right. Well, speaking of hopeful, maybe hopeful. Let's move on to the Sixers. They had a game recently. They played. I almost said the Pelicans. The Pacers. They played the Pacers. What did you see there? We'll start off with the good stuff. What did you see there that was good?
Okay. I mean, if we're starting off with the good stuff, I'd like to highlight certain players. Personally, I think the best player in that game was Dwight Howard. He did a lot of good work that game. And, we were just talking last week whether or not, he brings the veteran presence, and that's great. And we've had that on this team before. But is he also going to bring that veteran presence on the floor as well? And I think we have that answer. I think that he did last game, and I think that he will continue to bring that presence going forward. And then outside of him, I also liked Furkan Korkmaz. He looked good.
Yeah.
He was nailing threes like we're used to seeing. I liked what Mike Scott had to show. I felt like he was putting some threes. It was unfortunate that one, and at the end of the first quarter, he put one up. But, I mean, it was a nice three, but it got canceled out because the time had expired before. But, he had a nice game. Shake Milton had a pretty good game again. I'll still advocate him to be in that starting lineup. Am I going to be heard? Absolutely
Probably
not.
Yeah.
But I do think that he's very valuable to this team, and we should probably see him in the starting lineup.
Yeah. I mean, that honestly hits everything that I have, at least for now. All of the good things I want to talk about come later in this little schedule that we've got. So, yeah. I mean, I know we're gonna soon get into the fact that it was a sloppy game, and there were some issues with it, but they were down 11, 12 points at one point. They came back. Joel Embiid being sick, put them down. But this is a potential playoff team, and they held their own. Now, as to whether or not this is an accurate portrayal of how a regular season game would go against them, you never know. It's the preseason. You don't know if they're holding anything back or not. But regardless, it was a nice game to see. And it was, they won both the preseason games. As always, there's issues, but I see you shaking your head a little bit.
Yeah,
So, with that, we'll just jump into what was wrong with it. So
I
I'll give
take
you
the
the floor.
issues. I take the issues a little more seriously than you do here. Now,
Yes,
I'd also like to preference this. The fourth quarter in this game, it was mostly dominated by the younger players, the more
absolutely.
inexperienced players.
Yep.
Now, when I'm about to go into, it does not like we're excluding them being in and excluding the fact that they dominated the fourth quarter.
Yes.
So, this game, the 76ers had a total of 26 turnovers. 26 turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look up what the records are for a team in a single game for turnovers,
Mm-hmm.
the 10th option for that is 29. Like,
Yeah.
we were 3 away from being on that list.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the turnovers, it was the fouls too.
Yeah.
It was just nonstop fouls. There was one here, it might have been the first quarter, the second quarter, but it was just back and forth every time down the court. We were trading with the Pacers for about 10 possessions. It was a foul every single time. It ended in a foul no matter what happened on the court. These fouls combined with the turnovers, just like I'm talking about the Eagles, it's undisciplined.
Yeah.
It's undisciplined. And even though it's preseason, I think that's going to continue in the regular season, because one of my biggest hopes with Doc Rivers was that he was going to put an emphasis on turnovers. Because the entire time Brett Brown was here, the team was in the upper part of the league, bad side of it, for turnovers. And I really thought that trend would kind of go away or get better. And it doesn't look like there's any emphasis on it. It doesn't look like this problem's going to get fixed.
Yeah. No. I mean, like you said, I was going to bring it up. This is not a new problem we've had. We've had it for a while. And we saw it last year. And I remember thinking last year it was ridiculous. And we're seeing it now. And to think if this problem wasn't changed over the off season, or at least in the training that we've had leading up to these preseason games, that I don't see. There's no switch. Like we're not just going to go like, oh, the regular season games, let's not turn the ball over now. Like, it's still going to happen. And it's ridiculous. I think it's the product of having a young team. To give a little bit of anecdote, I played college roller hockey last season, and I remember telling you stories about this. But when you're younger and put in a position, under the lights, asked to perform, sometimes you try to do things that are out of your skill level. And I know that I certainly made passes that I really shouldn't have made, and those led to turnovers. So I don't, and the reason I bring it up is because I can't reckon what it is. I don't know. Like, we've had this problem for so long, and it's so obvious. Like, this isn't like the coaches have to know, the players have to know, everybody has to know. So at my point, it's gone from recognizing that we have a problem is no longer it. We have to get to solving this thing. It's not just like, oh, well, we put up another game where we had like 20 plus turnovers. No, it's we keep putting up games where we have 20 plus turnovers. And then it's like, it just, when I try to wrap my head around it, I just don't understand. And the only connection I can make is that we have a young team, and I'm hoping Doc Rivers can do something with it. I really do. But at this point, I think it's just inherent within our players, because they are relatively younger, that this is a problem.
I mean, it being a problem for a while, a lot of that time, some of these young players that we have been that problem year after year.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons, all the good things that he does put aside, he turns the ball over a lot. And so does Embiid. I mean, Embiid didn't even play in this game. Let's be real. If he played in this game, we would have been over 30 turnovers. We would have been on that top 10 list.
Mm-hmm.
Because, they just turn over the ball so much. And it's tough to win games when your opponent is not only getting well more fast breaks than you are,
Mm-hmm.
but when your opponent is out shooting you by like 20 some shots a game. Even if you're shooting better than them,
Yeah.
it is so difficult to win a game when they're doing that.
Yeah. If you get a team that can capitalize on that, it's just game over. I mean, we're gonna lose every game, you know. And that's worrying because like this is I'm willing to say that this is probably the biggest problem the team has right now, and we're getting lucky. We've gotten lucky with people not capitalizing on it, but we can't bank on that for a win. Like a win should be, it has to be controlled by you. You have to have. It's not like oh well they didn't do this so we won. You know, you have to. I don't like leaving the fate of our season and our games up to the opposing team not doing something. It should be us actively doing something. We should be trying to control our future. Like we should be controlling the outcome of the game, not like nudging the outcome of the game and hoping and banking on the other team not taking advantage of your mistakes. Like just correct the mistake. It's been here for years. You know, it's kind of worrying because if it goes on for longer, I'm worried it's going to become into a habit. Because like you said, you know, some of the newer players that we have, they've been here for years, you know, and now that we've seen that season after season, you know, basketball isn't just shooting and defense, you know, and I feel like there's always emphasis, like, you know, shot percentage, you know, work on your shot, work on your defense, but, you know, it's scary that this is even a possibility, that we might just be losing every game because it's not because we're allowing the opponents to take more shots, not because our defense is bad, but because we can't hold on to the ball.
And, you know, like what happens in the season or the postseason especially, what happens when we run into like the Heat or we run into the Lakers?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't win that game. Like we beat the Pacers by 6. If we run into one of those teams and have 20 plus turnovers, we're not going to win by 6. We're going to lose by 30.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be a completely different discussion here rather than like us talking about the good things. It's going to be all bad.
Yeah.
You know, there's not going to be highlights from that game for us. It's going to be all bad. And with everything we've discussed about this game, honestly, it was one of the most disgusting, boring games I've ever watched. It sucked. And man, look, if it's going to be this way this season,
yeah,
it's going to be tough to watch them. And I hope it's not, because they have a really talented roster and one of the best teams they've had in so long.
Absolutely.
And they all complement each other.
Yeah.
But if this is what we're going to expect, man, I ain't even going to watch them.
I don't think you can say that. I mean, you know, like, now, to be fair, I didn't watch the game. I wasn't able to watch the game. I just watched the highlights and looked at stats. So I don't know the pain that has traumatized you. So
it was bad.
But you know, looking at it from the outside, they did it without Joel Embiid. You know, and like you said, we would probably have more turnovers with Joel Embiid. You know, and that's fine. But we also would probably have more points if we had Joel Embiid. You know, so on one hand, the turnover thing, unacceptable. You know, we got to fix it. You know, if we're going to have, I don't want to say any hope, but if we really want to become an elite team, we got to fix it. We got to fix it. But as far as scoring goes, as far as, you know, winning games goes, we did that without Joel Embiid. You know, that's really good considering the fact that we're building our team around him. The fact that our team can stand without him, it's going to help us out a lot. You know, and I think it's a really good testament to, you know, how well the Sixers have done in building their team up and trusting the process. You know, and you know, but when we get him in there, then, you know, that's going to be something to look forward to. You know, with all of the bad things that happened that game and all of the negative statistics, that was, you know, it was nice to see that we can hold our own without our star player, and that once our star player gets here, it's gonna get good. It's gonna get good.
I mean, I would like to say, you know, if Joe was playing this game, not only would we have scored more, but they would have scored a lot less. Because as dominant on the offensive end that he is, he's as dominant on the defensive end.
Yes.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised instead of winning this game by 6, we could have won it by 20.
Yeah.
And that's still with throwing just all the young guys out in the fourth quarter. So while I am very upset and frustrated with this team with this last game, there are good signs. I still do think it's going to be a good season, but we do need to crack down on these problems.
Yes. And one more thing, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this. I even have a bullet point on this piece of paper. Why, and I mentioned this in the intro as well. And where is Ben Simmons and his shot? Where is it? So he makes 1 3 last year, right? He made more than 1 3. But I remember last year when he made the first 3, everybody went ballistic, right? And
I was there.
So, yeah, I could feel it sitting at home watching. It was nuts, the amount of excitement all over social media, especially in the stadium, all that kind of stuff. So then we enter the offseason, and he's posting, and I follow him on Twitter and the Sixers on Instagram. Like, he's like, we're working on the shot. Like, don't worry, Philly, I got you. Like, we're working on the shot. And here we are in preseason. I know I said this last time. We're working on it. We're here in preseason, and he's not working on it. The ball's going to Scott. The ball's going to Korkmaz. Why are the younger players, why do they have the appetite and the hunger to go and take these threes, but Ben doesn't? And obviously it has to be more complicated than that, But there's no, lack. There shouldn't, I don't want to say there shouldn't be because I don't know anymore. But in my mind, there really shouldn't be a lack of confidence, considering the fact that so many people have said how good he is. I remember I was watching First Take and Stephen A was praising him. He was like, with the exception of this shot, he is a ball of potential. And there's going to come a moment when he is going to explode and become one of, if not the best players that this league has ever seen, And it's so frustrating because you have these media outlets that are saying these things about him, but all he has to do is go out and at least show us that he's trying. Because if he doesn't do it, if he doesn't go out and try it mid-game, it's not going to happen. It's just not. He's got to get the experience. He can shoot off the court all he wants. He can shoot in practice all he wants. But that's not the same as the pressure you face in the game and the atmosphere that you face in the game. And regardless of it, the opportunity is pretty much over now. That was the last preseason game, if I'm correct. The opportunity is over. Now we've got to focus on trying this in mid-season. We've got to experiment with this mid-season. But it doesn't make any sense to me as to why he's not trying these things right now, especially since he said he's been working on it. He should have that shot down. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, here I'm going to agree and disagree with your point. For the last few seasons, we have seen Ben working on this shot.
Mm-hmm.
And the fans have died for this shot. Not to mention, he could be such a better player overall if he could have not even a reliable 3-ball, but a reliable jump shot.
Yeah.
If he could just hit 2s, it would be, and if he could do 3s, it would completely spread the court wide open.
Yeah.
Because if we can just have Joe down in the paint on the block by himself and have him surrounded by the other 4 all being shooters, it just makes the team so much better. But, Doc Rivers has said that, Ben doesn't have to do this shot. He doesn't have to shoot the 3.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we want him to, but, he's not comfortable with it. And he's made it very clear through the last few years he's not comfortable shooting the ball, at least in a game setting. He's much more, he excels when he's driving and then he's going to kick it out. While that does cause quite a few turnovers, it works. It works. Again, I do wish he was shooting. He would be. I wish that he would be shooting the ball a lot more. But now that we have a lot of shooters that we added to this team this year, I think it becomes a lot less of a problem than it has been in past seasons.
Yeah, that was, I did make that whole rant, but it's not the most vital thing in the world. It would make him a better player, I think. But we've got the shooters, we've got the backup, we've got that foundation that he doesn't have to, like, it's not his fault, this is an optional, this is something we can add or subtract from the team, and it's not going to make much of a difference. I don't want to say that, but this is an accessory. His shot is an accessory. It's not foundational to the team.
I mean, if he could add the shot, he got a lot of comparisons to LeBron James. I think that he could be a LeBron James level player. Absolutely. If he could pick up the shot. Right now, he's still an elite player. I like to kind of see him as like Russell Westbrook, really good around the rim. The shot, I mean, Westbrook shoots the ball more often.
Which isn't hard to say, but yeah.
It ends in a lot of bricks, but, he drives hard, he kicks the ball out. Yeah. That's where, like, I kind of can compare Ben to right now. But if he could gain that shot, it would make him an elite player in this league. It would set him apart.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be nice, but I guess we just got to give it time. That's about all there is. All right. Well, we couldn't really find a smooth transition to this, but the Flyers, like I said, there's nothing new. They're not doing anything. We do have a start date. Their season opener is the January 13th of 2021. Which I'm immensely excited for. I can't wait. But at this point, people have tuned out of the podcast. So, like, to the 3 hockey people that watch, hello, I'm here for you.
Hi.
But with that, we do have a little bit of news. Flyers signed Mason Millman to a 3-year deal. How do I feel? I don't know. I don't really know if I have any emotions about it. It's nice. His stats in the OHL are very promising. The Ontario Hockey League, for those who managed to stick around and not know hockey. 44 points in 58 games. That's really promising. To have a defenseman, to be able to put a defenseman on the lower lines and have them shoot well, or at least get the puck to the net in the first place, is really nice. And to have him be, a scorer as well is really nice. I mean, obviously we don't, with the exception of power plays, we don't really need much, So this isn't filling up a gap that we have, or this isn't some like mind-blowing ad. It's exciting. He's a new rookie. We drafted him in 2019. He's 6'1", 180 pounds. He's a good-sized defenseman. And it gives hope for the potential for chemistry. He'd be a rookie in a team full of new guys. Not rookies anymore, but, and new guys. And it's a really nice atmosphere. So I'm excited. Doesn't do anything big. Not really. This isn't necessarily like the biggest thing in the world. But, it's exciting. The one thing that I will get riled up, though, I just found this out right before we recorded the podcast, so I don't have all the information on it. But for some reason, Gritty isn't allowed in the Wells Fargo Center. And my man, Kevin Hayes, has stood up for him and said, I will not play, potentially jokingly. This is probably jokingly, but I don't care. He said he will not play if Gritty is not allowed in the Wells Fargo Center. And to that, I salute you, sir. That is a phenomenal cause. But that's ridiculous. We should start petitioning people because we need Gritty. He is the heart and soul of this team. But, yes. But, yeah, like I said, nothing new is happening in the land of hockey right now. I covered basically from the end of the season up until now with last podcast, so we're just kind of sitting here. They're not on the struggle bus. They don't have anything. There's nothing wrong. They have their issues. The power play is still god awful, but
well, you could put Gritty on the struggle bus.
Oh, we could have put
Gritty on the struggle bus. Oh my God. Of course, we think about this now. That's the one thing I can absolutely talk about Flyers wise is Gritty.
Oh my God,
Gritty is a national treasure. He needs to be protected. He needs to be led into the stadium.
He needs to be led into the stadium.
The team needs to call for a boycott If Gritty's not let in, they don't play. Season doesn't happen if Gritty's not let in.
As soon as this podcast ends, I'm looking up why, and I might add a little video at the end of this podcast to be like, just to update you. If anybody even makes it to the last part of the podcast, but I might add a video being like, the NHL is screwing us. You know what? I will say, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a combination of the rest of the NHL mascots. All of the other mascots are really salty because the NHL did a poll last season of like who the best mascot is, and Gritty was here. I mean, I don't remember when his first year is, but like during his first year, they were like Gritty #1. Like everybody loved Gritty, and all of the other mascots got really salty. So I wouldn't be surprised if like the mascot union or whatever got together and was like, nah, screw you, Gritty.
I mean, I don't know if you remember, but my personal favorite sports analyst, Katie Nolan, she's done a lot of pieces with Gritty, and she
has.
She went in and covered the mascot feud with Gritty.
Oh my God.
It's ridiculous how much he's hated around the league, but we love him here. He's got a home here no matter what.
Yes, we will break in these doors for him if we have to. But, no. So that's about it for the Flyers. And Dave, if you want to take over the Phillies.
Now we get to my topic, you
yes,
know?
Yes, sir.
And if we're being real to, like, the absolutely nobody that's still here, I must be the only – I feel like I'm the only Phillies fan left. It's just – it's troublesome. And, it's more painstaking talking about the Phillies than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So last week we intended to talk a bit about the new president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski.
Yeah.
Didn't get a chance to. So this week we will, since there is absolutely nothing else to talk about for them. So this guy that they hired, he's known for big moves. So he'll either go ahead and do the big trades or big free agent signings. I believe we touched on that briefly last week.
Yeah.
But, we don't have, like I said last week, we don't have the farm to do that. We don't have the roster to do that. We don't even have the money to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that bit of it is just, it's kind of out there. And I did some research, and because I wanted to look at, his past jobs, what he's done on past jobs. Between 2002 and 2015, he was in the Tigers organization. Now, I mean, I would say it was fairly successful. I mean, this part is a little rough. Made the playoffs 5 times in 14 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's better than the pace we're at right now. It's still not great.
Yeah.
When they got in the playoffs, though, fairly successful. They had 1 ALDS loss.
Mm-hmm.
They had 2 ALCS losses. And they also had 2 World Series losses.
Yeah.
Notice, while they were successful, they didn't win a single thing while he was there. And it's ridiculous to think that the Tigers never won anything there, because they had arguably one of the best pitching staffs that's ever been seen in baseball.
Yeah.
It's comparable to what we had in 2011 with Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, Cole Hamels, Roy Oswalt, like an insane pitching staff. They had that too. They had Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, they had Porcello, they had Sanchez, they had Price. It's just, they had so many elite pitchers, and all of them have gone on to win a World Series. Other than without the Tigers, they've all won World Series without the Tigers at this point.
Yeah,
but they're all absolute elite pitchers, and they couldn't win with them. And not only could they not win with that, they couldn't win with a stacked lineup. The lineup that they were running, I believe this was 2014. We're looking at Suarez, Avila, Cabrera, Kinsler, Castellanos, J.D. Martinez, Torrey Hunter, Victor Martinez. It's the whole team was absolutely stacked, and they couldn't do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what troubles me here, because they got a really good team. And the Phillies right now, we have a really good team, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe we've got a good foundation up there that we can build around. We need to plug in some pieces. But
Mhm.
what happens when we have this great lineup and this great pitching staff, but maybe we're missing in just a few areas still, and we're not able to finish it?
Mhm.
He built this Tigers team to that. He
Yeah.
built them up, but they weren't able to get to that ultimate goal. And while they had, some really good appearances, they never won, but they had good appearances. The last 6 seasons that he was there, they were terrible. The Tigers were terrible. It's the
Uh-huh.
Tigers that we know today, bottom of the league, absolute, just
Yep.
it's a mess over there, and they
Yes.
don't really have a future.
Uh-huh.
I like they've got Boyd, and other than that, the Tigers really don't have anything going for them.
Yeah.
Then his most recent job prior to the Phillies, he was on the Red Sox from 2015 to 2019. That one was a bit more successful. He had 2 ALDS losses, but he got that World Series. Oh, they
Yeah.
won the World Series just a few years ago against the Dodgers. So it does go to show that he can win. But if you look at what the Tigers had, if they couldn't win with that, like I don't know how we're gonna win with him.
Mhm.
If maybe it was more on the players than on the personnel side of it, but
Mhm.
it's troublesome looking at it.
Yeah. Are we so are we looking at this as a net positive addition to our management? I mean, okay, first of all, I would like to say um I know very little about baseball, but from the sounds of it, it wouldn't be hard to improve our management right now. So do you see this as A, an improvement, but B, um, a more good than bad addition to our upper management?
Well, I definitely see it as an improvement. Matt Klintak, he was a joke. He is
Uh-huh.
an absolute joke. So it definitely was an improvement. But is it the right move? Probably not.
Hmm.
Like, he can be successful, and he's proved that he can be successful. But
Yeah.
I don't know if he can be successful with his team. I could be wrong. And I'm not going to go out there and say that it was a terrible move. For me, it's more neutral. I think the good and bad, it balances out. There probably could have been better people for the job. But, we've got him now, and we got to work around what he wants to get done. And if John Middleton is able or wanting to change his mindset to maybe throw some more money at the team and allow him to do some of his big signings, or just allow some of these big trades to go through. But going forward, hopefully we can re-sign JT. That'd be a
Hmm.
good start. That'd be a
Yeah.
great start. And then after that, we need to answer some pitching. We need to go to the bullpen for sure. That needs to be the priority.
Uh-huh.
Still, Liam Hendricks, I think I mentioned him last week. He's out there. We can go and get him. But in terms of the pitching staff, I know Trevor Bauer's out there. He's the top pitcher out there. There's not a chance we're picking him up. And it's a shame because I really enjoy his he brings a different side of he brings more entertainment to baseball.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that we won't be able to get that on our team.
Yeah.
But I know that he's also looking at Luis Castillo. Is that going to be a possible pickup? I don't really know.
Uh-huh.
But what I like is that we're at least hearing of some of these rumors. We're hearing stuff coming out of the management rumors. And, as long as these are good rumors that we're hearing, I think that so far it's been a good pickup.
So overall, do we have hope for next season for the Phillies, or not?
If you ask me, no. No, I don't think there's any hope for us next season. Because, if we re-sign JT and maybe make some other moves, our team would have gotten better, which is a good thing.
Mhm.
But the problem here is the Braves, they keep getting better every single year. Like the young talent they have with Albies, Acuna, Swanson,
Mhm.
and Alex Riley, Freddie Freeman's still there. It's like their whole team is absolutely stacked, and their pitching isn't half bad either with Mike Soroka leading them. Bullpen's not too bad, and you can look at Washington. They still have their insane pitching rotation, and still a good lineup over there. Miami had a breakout season last year that I don't think many people expected.
Yeah.
They've got great young pitchers and just overall great young talent out there, including our very own Sixto Sanchez I hate that we gave him up. But and then even the Mets, they're making good moves. Now, unlike the Eagles, this division, this is going to be a tough division to win. The NL East is going to be very competitive and very good next season. We may finish in above 500 record this season, which I hope we do. I hope so badly we're above 500. But that's not necessarily going to be enough to get in the playoffs. I don't think we can win our division. In terms of making the wild card, I mean, there's a lot of other good teams out there that are going to be competing with that, along with probably every single team in our division.
Yeah.
I don't think we make the playoffs next year. I think we get close, though. I think we get close to making the playoffs next year. And maybe 2 seasons from now, our young talent would have developed enough. We would have filled the holes, and hopefully we can not only get to the playoffs, but make a deep playoff run.
Well, at least this sounds better than what we got last season. So.
There's hope, but we've had hope for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
So, I expected them to make the playoffs last year, the year before that. Obviously, they were big disappointments. Now that could continue to happen, or maybe, just maybe, our young talent develops enough, matures enough, and we can fill those spots, and we can actually act on the talent that we have and do something about it.
Just maybe. That should be the slogan for the Phillies. Just maybe.
Just maybe.
All right. Well, that's about it as far as we've got for updates on the sports teams. We're trying a new segment here. And before we hop into this, I would like to say, what we're going to do is we're going to rank top 10 players in Philadelphia right now on any team except for Union. Still sucks to suck soccer fans.
Top 4 sports.
Yeah. So we thought of this ourselves. However, if there's anybody left watching this podcast, you can DM me on Instagram. Where's my finger? DM me on Instagram. DM me on Twitter. Comment to a story, whatever.
And come to me on Instagram too.
Yeah, that too. But I've got more followers. Though. So, if you have ideas as to what you want us to rank or just talk about in general, this is kind of like a little bit of a random segment we're adding on, just for the non-sports fans or to people who don't just want to see constant sports updates. Give us some thoughts, and we'll probably incorporate it because we are, not the best at thinking like that. So
flexible, yeah.
So yeah,
if there's anything that you see that you would like us to improve on, touch more on, or like he was saying with these rankings, if there's something you want to see us rank, please put it in the comment sections or DM, or if there is just any subject that you want us to touch on that we're not touching on.
Absolutely.
Let us know.
Absolutely. And as a final thing, you can ask to come on the show. We did have one person reach out that was pretty passionate about how badly the Sixers, Eagles, and Phillies suck. Big surprise they didn't mention the Flyers. If you're interested, hit us up, and we'll try to work something out. We'll see if we could make it happen. So, all right,
absolutely.
On to the rankings. You're gonna go first because I think I have a few curveballs in here.
Yeah, I will go first, and how we'll run it, we'll go from number 10, and we'll work our way down to number 1. Number 1 being the best current Philly athlete.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would first like to start with my honorable mentions because I feel like I might get some heat if people are watching. I feel like I could get some heat for this one. Now, my number 11 spot was Ben Simmons. He was the last one not to make the list. Now, I felt like he didn't deserve to make the list because while he brings a lot of good to that team, I feel like he's almost this season going to fall back to like a role player.
Uh-huh.
You know, I feel like Joel Embiid is the big star coming out of that team. And I feel like that Ben Simmons is just going to become more or less a role player, a very good role player, but a role player. And I just don't feel like we've seen enough out of him to make the cut.
I mean, that's fair. It's so hard because I want to rank people on potential, but I definitely feel that way. Um, I mean, he's probably my 11th as well, if we look at it. I mean, I had him up earlier until I kind of forgot a few people. But yeah. Um, but yeah. So I mean, I think that's reasonable. But you know, it's so hard to judge off of potential because if we were judging off of potential, he'd be way up. But
Yeah.
He's probably my honorable mention as well. Yeah. So, all right.
All right. So then,
Your
number 10. My number 10 is Aaron Nola.
Ah, yes, baby. I got that right. All right. He's my number 10 as well.
Okay.
And if I can start this out, I put him out of guilt. I know he's our only good pitcher. Not only. Well, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know baseball. But I know he's our
Clearly.
I know he's our big name pitcher. And I tried to get 2 for every sport at least. So, actually, I don't even think I did that for basketball. Regardless, I tried to do. I tried to really expand my horizons here and think a little bit. So I put Aaron Nola a little bit out of guilt, but also a little bit out of like knowing that he's our best pitcher, and you know he's kind of like the only ray of hope in our bullpen that we have at the moment. So.
Yeah, so let me tell you why I put him at 10. Now, you know, he is an incredible pitcher, and either him or Zach Wheeler next season are going to end up being our ace. It could be co-aces. But Aaron Nola, like, in the past, he has had incredible seasons. You know, he was just barely missed the Cy Young. He was just behind Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer now. Jacob deGrom has been absolutely insane for the past few years, and I by all means, I think he's going to continue doing it. But Aaron Nola, he has the stuff. Like, you watch him pitch, the movement he's got on his fastball, and then the curveball is just the depth it has on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had to make the list. He had to.
Yeah.
So, number 9.
Number 9,
I have Jalen Hurts.
Ooh, okay.
Now, I was conflicted of whether or not I should put him on this list because he's very new to this scene here.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like I said earlier, you know, he really impressed me in this last game that we played on Sunday. And I mean, it's partially potential, but like what we saw out of him on this Sunday, if he can continue to do that, it will give the Eagles a good chance to win every single week.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, I'm making changes. My number 9 was Miles Sanders. You're probably gonna think it's low.
I do think that's low.
Yeah. I do not see the same. I do not see him in the same light as you do. I mean, he's a good running back. He's a phenomenal running back, but he hasn't had the chances. He hasn't had the breakouts that he needs to have. So partially, is it his fault? Not really. I mean, more I'm just doing it because there's a lack of opportunity that he's getting. You know, and he's not doing. He's doing stuff for us in the game, but he's not doing as much as he could be. And I think because of that, you know, this is more of a failure of the people around him not giving him the ball in the first place. And also, you know, I don't know. It just kind of made sense to put him lower for me. Not the biggest fan, you know, in regards to like top 10s, but you know, he's still a great running back, and I expect him to do great things. But that's potential there. That he has the potential to do good. He just needs to get the ball. So.
I mean, I think with that being said, he is going to be on my list and quite
Absolutely.
a bit higher than what you have him at. But my number 8 pick is Claude Giroux.
Hey!
Giroux on the list. I mean, playoffs last year, that was rough, and you went into good depth with that last week.
Yes, sir.
But I feel like he had to make the list because of what he's meant to the Flyers for so many years, and the veteran and the captain presence that he brings. I feel like he had to make the list.
Yeah, this list was hard because I have him as my number 8 as well, which is funny. It's so hard to judge based off currently because the last thing we saw of him, he very much so underperformed in the playoff. But like you said, he's done a lot for the Flyers. He's done a lot for the city. But he's going to be a veteran presence there, regardless of whether or not he does well. He's going to be a chemistry guy, an off the ice guy. He's going to be he's just going to be the I don't want to call it emotional support, but he's going to be there for people. He's going to bolster the team in emotional game sense kind of ways. And with that, actually, and I know I mentioned this to you a little earlier, but I want to put slash Alain Vigneault. He's not a player, but they do the same thing in my mind at the moment. Like, obviously, if we're talking like Drew in his prime, Drew was much higher, but as of current, him and Drew do the same thing in the sense that they help bond the rookies. They help the team atmosphere. They provide experience, and that's a big thing. AV has a ton of experience coaching, and I think it's huge. I think it's going to be great for the Flyers. And while, like I said, this is not skill-based, this is part of it was what played into what Drew did for the city, but also from a not stats and gameplay side of it. So, yeah.
Well put. So my number 7. Now, this is going to be someone I know you don't have on your list because when I said his name earlier, you didn't know who he was. So Zach Wheeler is my number 7. Now, I have him higher placed than Nola, and that's because he had a better season last year than Nola did. Zach Wheeler, like the velocity that he brings and the cut of the stuff that he has, it's very good, very nice to watch, and he can be a very dominant pitcher. Like I said before, him and Nola, they're probably going to end up being co-aces, and hopefully they can carry this rotation this upcoming season. Zach Wheeler at 7.
Yeah. Yes, definitely not. Like I said, don't watch baseball. I got nothing. Like, I don't know. You could be completely lying to me right now, and I have no idea. But at my number 7, I have, let me just cross off real quick. I just did Claude Giroux. Jalen Hurts is my 7. Skill's good. But you're right. He doesn't have the merits in this city yet. He's played, like I said, 2.5 games. But I love his energy. His confidence and just his facial expressions off the field are phenomenal. I love somebody that enjoys the game as much as they are in it because it's their career and they're determined to win. I like somebody who can let loose a little bit because, I also believe that helps. But it's also entertaining, to see the meme of, like, Jalen sticking his tongue out and putting his hand up in the air, like, amazing. I love that kind of stuff. I love to see personality. I don't just want to see you as a human being under a helmet,
we keep bringing up the point, like, spark plug, and that's what he's been. He's not only been the spark plug for the offense, but probably the defense as well. So, while I disagree with him being that high, I think it's not a bad spot for him to be.
Yeah. But yeah. All right. What's your number 6?
My number 6, I have Brandon Brooks as my number 6. The Eagles' right guard, he hadn't played this season. I think he missed a good portion of last season. It was back-to-back ACL, I think, on either leg. But he's an absolute beast. When he's in there, he's the best right guard in the NFL, and by a long shot. He's the best part of our offensive line when we have him. He absolutely had to be on this list.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, didn't cross my mind. I think going with the whole current thing, he's been here a long time. He's phenomenal. But for me, him being out the season, I just couldn't do it. So, but I think that's perfectly reasonable. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fine. My 6 is Ivan Provorov. Huge startup guy. Newer to the season when he got here. Newer to the league when he got here. But he rose through the ranks. And by the time the season was over, he was paired with Matt Niskanen, doing amazing things on defense. Has some phenomenal slap shots, and phenomenal goals. I love watching him. He's arguably my new favorite player to watch. I liked him, and that's probably like my extra, where I cut out a second basketball player. That's probably my extra of a Flyers player that I can throw in here. I love him, and I think he's going to do great things for us.
Well, with Provorov, this is only a 10-person list. If this was a 20 or 25-person list, he would have placed 14 or 15 for me. Yeah. So he wasn't too far off my list. So I can see why you placed him there. Yeah. Especially being a hockey guy.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to have baseball, you're going to have baseball people that I'm not going to have. I'm going to have hockey people that you're not going to have, And frankly, you're going to have football people that I'm not going to have. But yeah. All right. What's your number 5?
Number 5, I have Fletcher Cox.
Ooh. Okay.
His status right now is kind of unknown with the hand thing that he just went through on Sunday. But, he's been the staple of this defensive line for so long now. You have him and Brandon Graham. They've been here forever, and they've just absolutely torn it up. Just the way that he gets pressure on the quarterback, and not to mention after he gets a sack, the army crawl that he does with the finger guns at the end. He has to be on this list for me.
Oh yeah, and he's coming for me, but I absolutely agree. My 5 was Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes is a personality that you just cannot beat. I love him. He's a funny guy. He's good. We got him. He used to play for the New York Rangers. Phenomenal offenseman. He plays. He contributes to the very welcoming, funny atmosphere that the Flyers have. The stuff that he does with Gritty is great. I love it. But I think that as we get to the top 5, it's more of people who are embodying Philly at this point. That's who I see as great. People could have more skill. That's why I would put Claude Giroux higher if we're talking about embodying the city. But last year was a little too rough. But as somebody who embodies the city, Kevin got here. He's here to play. He's good. He's got that kind of I want to say he's harsh, but he definitely fits in with the city atmosphere. He loves playing for us. So I think that's why he's on number 5.
Well, I would not have put him here. That's probably my lack of hockey knowledge. Yeah. He wouldn't have come close for me.
Yeah. I've seen him during podcasts and during interviews, and the little extras that the Flyers do with their players, and the mic'd up and all that stuff. Hilarious. I love watching him play.
Well, kind of sticking with the Flyers, my number 4 would be Carter Hart.
Hell yeah,
Before
baby.
I go into that at all, I would like to preference this by saying that a certain somebody across the screen here for me just absolutely forgot about him. The hockey guy forgot about him when making a top 10 list. How do you forget about Carter Hart when making a top 10 list?
I would like to preface this with the reason. Did I momentarily forget? Yes, I did. However, I did a check with Dave to see who was on his list just to make sure I hadn't forgotten anybody. So I took the measure to make sure I didn't forget anybody big. And I knew that I was going to forget somebody. And somebody as big as Carter Hart, who I have yet to mention, by the way, we're at top 4 now. Well, I see you. I see the work that you've done. I haven't forgotten. It was a momentary lapse in judgment.
Well, I had to make sure I got that one out there. I've been sitting on that since it's happened. So, I had to make sure I get that. I mean, my reasoning, like, now I remember, us having some conversations, like back when we still were able to go outside, and like go bowling and stuff like that. I remember like being in the car, like talking about Carter Hart, and this was maybe even prior to last season or towards the beginning of last season. I knew that he was going to be something special, and he has absolutely turned into what we kind of hoped that he would. And I think having a good, constant goalie, fixing the goalie problem, I think it's going to go a long way for the Flyers. And this is somebody that we can count on for 10, 15 years to come.
Absolutely. It's really nice to see the Flyers have a constant goalie for once. We're not hopscotching around with different people, especially with those more mediocre goalies. I don't think I could have said that I called it, as early as you did, but I definitely recognized that he was kind of shining through the cracks in the beginning of last season. And it's just phenomenal. And some of the saves, oh my God, I could go on and on about this guy. There's some of the saves that he made, the fact that he went on a goalless streak in the Stanley Cup playoffs for a little bit, that was great. He was the reason the Flyers were able to stay in so many of the games that they did, especially when the lack of power play goals was a problem. I think 4 is perfectly reasonable for him.
Well, what's your 4?
Bryce Harper. I think it's fitting that you put hockey at 4 and I put Phillies at 4. My top 4 are going to be the elite players on each team that I see. So I put Bryce here just because everybody else, it's basically number 1. He's the number 1 on the Phillies. He's a great player. And he loves playing here. I think that's a huge thing. That's a huge decision that or a huge factor that I considered when making this list. He loves playing here. But, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, baseball is my least watched sport. And also, I feel like he doesn't have the personality. Like, he's awesome. He loves playing here. I know we told him that, like, when we signed him, we were going to get him a win here, or at least get him somewhat far. I love all of that stuff. He doesn't have like that Philly personality, that like sucks to suck personality. At least that I've seen. Now, like I said, I have limited knowledge, so you might be shaking your head in disbelief. But
yeah, I'll get to him. Don't you worry, he's on his way.
All right, well, we'll skip that and we'll go for number 3.
Number 3, I have Miles Sanders.
That's where he came in. Okay.
Yeah, so just like you were saying, my top 4 are 1 from each team.
Okay.
And for the Eagles, representing them is Miles Sanders.
Oh,
Unlike you, I truly believe he's a top 5 running back in this league.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he's shown that, and he will continue to show that. He's got the skill set. He's got the vision. He hangs on to the football. All he needs is Doug Peterson to continue to call his number and run the football. And, I think he's going to be something really special for a long time to come.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly don't deny that he's elite. We need to use him correctly is all it is. We just need to use him correctly. I think anybody could shine if they were, not anybody, but I think most people who are hitting the level that he's at right now, if they were combined properly with the correct amount of training or whatever the heck they needed, AKA like carries in his case, I think it could be good. My 3rd is Fletcher Cox. I love watching Fletcher Cox play. He's great. He's a beast. The Army crawl thing, that for me is the Philly, the embodiment.
It really is.
Oh my God. It's the braggy, like, hell yeah, let's go kind of attitude that I love to watch. Needless to say, he's got the skill, like you mentioned before. He's an elite player, best right guard in the league. I love it when he gets sacks. Just like I said, he's a veteran here. It's just great having him here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with him being the Eagles representative too. I had him at 5, so it's not too big of a difference.
Yeah.
With that being said, my number two. I have
a feeling we're going to agree here.
I have a feeling we're not.
Who's your number 2?
Bryce Harper is my number 2.
Wow. Okay.
So Bryce Harper is my number 2. Now, I feel like he, we've been saying for some of these people, I feel like he embodies Philly perfectly. He has that winning personality. He reminds me a lot of Chase Utley in so many ways. Like his hustle and the way he doesn't give up ever, and his whole mentality, it's great. Obviously, he's not Chase Utley in the fact that he's much more vocal about these sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
But he, like, his skill sets, when we signed him, we knew that we were getting an MVP type hitter.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't know that we were also going to get a Gold Glove right fielder. Ever since he's been here, like last season, his defense, it was Gold Glove worthy. And I mean, we got an absolute complete player, and he's going to be here for a while, and he's the guy that we need to build around in the Phillies organization.
Yeah. I definitely think that's it. I think the part for me, there's not room in baseball, in my opinion, to have that kind of like, I don't want to say scummy, but like that Philly attitude of you suck kind of attitude. Like when Fletcher Cox sacks somebody and then he does the finger guns and he celebrates, like that's immediately like crapping on the other teams.
I mean, we kind of can. It depends on how the dugouts like to celebrate,
Yeah.
These days, they all have their individual handshakes and stuff, but, some things that some of these teams do, it can be pretty disrespectful.
I'll take your word on that one. But my second is Joel Embiid. I mean, do I really need to say anything? Like, what are you always shaking your head at for?
No, just listen. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Listen. I'm biased. So you probably...
that is wrong. That is so wrong.
I don't care. I don't even care. I'm going to get hate. I don't even care. Joel Embiid, I like watching him play. He's got the Philly attitude. Like when we crap on people for not being Phillies fans, I mean, he is that guy. He's got the alpha, like, I'm here to stay. I'm the best. We're the best. Like, we got the best team. Love it. Obviously, I don't have to say anything about his skills. It makes sense. And if I wasn't a hockey guy, he'd probably be number 1, but I'm a hockey guy. So
I'd like to bounce off that because Joel Embiid is my number 1.
Yes,
because for a fact, undisputed, he is currently the best athlete in this city. Without a doubt, he is. It's just what he brings to that team. He could go down as one of the greatest centers of all time to play this game.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with the embodiment, I mean, he embodies this city like no other.
Mm-hmm.
He like no other probably since Allen Iverson.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Embiid, he's something really special, and he should be right now everybody's number 1.
Mm-hmm.
But
I am here to tell you,
Hart over here that he forgot
Carter
about.
Hart
that he forgot about.
I don't even care. Say whatever you want. I don't care. Carter Hart, my number 1. I mean, I already went through it, but he is a great goalie. He is the reason the Flyers did as well as they did last year. They would have lost significantly more games had he not been in net. He made some amazing plays. It's when he makes a save, I am almost always, but when he makes an incredible save, I'm jumping up and down out of my seat. I love watching him play. Not to say that I don't love watching Joel Embiid play, but I just get more hype over hockey. So like Joel Embiid, I agree with you. Best player in the city right now. But as far as who I like to watch play,
That's not what this list was.
Yes, you said.
That's not what this list was. This list was the top 10 best current athletes.
Best.
Top 10 ones that you like.
Best off of what? I mean, we could have done best off of like best hairdo. Best off of what? Wasn't specified.
You knew what this was.
No, I did know what it was.
This was.
But I blatantly put Carter Hart up there because I love watching him play. And yes, Chris, I'm going to be representing the hockey people because basketball and football get too much representation. No, that's not true. But yes, it's also a little bit of me being salty, but also I genuinely believe he is the best goalie to come around here in a while. He's going to be a franchise goalie. He has carried us. He probably will continue to carry us if we don't decide to fix some things. But that is it. So
Well, I'll say this. You should get hate about this.
okay.
You won't.
I embrace it.
You won't.
Why won't I get hate for it? Why would I get hate for it?
You're not going to because nobody's here. That's why.
I will. I almost am willing to bet you money that I will, because there has to be somebody.
I hope you get hate for this because it's a fundamentally, like you said, wrong. Well, you didn't say wrong, but like you said, biased opinion here.
It's biased.
It doesn't belong. He is, again, for me, he's number 4. He's the best Flyers player, and he should represent a top 4 spot, but not number 1. Number 1.
My list, my rules. So there you go.
I suppose.
All right. Well, if you're still here, thanks for hanging around. Like I said, or like we said, send us stuff. Whether you want to be in the podcast, whether you want to, submit a question, whether you just want to give us something to talk about in the first place. Hell yeah, we'll accept it all. And yeah, so that's that. We'll be back next week to cover more Eagles, and I don't know their schedule, but probably another Sixers game.
Sixers. Well, we'll have a few Sixers games to go over.
Well, until then, everybody, peace out.
Bye.
See you guys.